On the Rangers to start the regular season. We know that Cody Bellinger is going to be a big part of this team. But if the Cubs are going to really contend, they're going to need the same Seiya Suzuki they got in the second half of the season. I think that's very possible. We're going to talk about the Japanese slugger. David Bote, mentioned him yesterday, but I feel like I got to talk about him again. How about the defense he played against the White Sox in rainy, damp Glendale? And who knew that it was going to rain this much in Arizona? Seems to never happen, but this year it has. And Sammy Sosa back in the picture again. And it looks like there could be a Cubs reunion. We're going to get into all that right here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Make sure that you guys like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Hit the bell so you know when we're dropping new content or we're live. And here's your invitation. Go Cubs. What do you say, everybody? It's Mick Gillispie, and it is great to see you guys. St. Patrick's Day is tomorrow. Got my Cubs St. Patrick's Day hat on, and looking decked out in my jersey. This is one of the jerseys, the majestic jerseys. This is a real jersey. I mean, it came from the Cubs, one of those yard sale things they do, and it fits great. I love it. I think the guys would love to have these back again. Like the numbers are stitched on and the patches and everything. So I wanted to wear that because some of you guys have gotten into the comments and said, what do you think about these jerseys? I love the see-through pants. I think that's funny. They'll get it figured out. But the best part about it is when you would get like those jersey T-shirts, they would have look like, ironed on letters, but it was really just like, a print. And the New Jerseys look like that. They look like somebody just like ironed on the, the names. They're so small, and they've got a lot of work to do before I would say that the players are going to be happy. But I love this one. Nothing better than the Cubs pinstripe. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. I'm at Broadcaster Mick on the socials, still on the mend. I got through a lot of the comments, and I'm so sorry that I haven't been able to get to those sooner, guys. I got sick with the neurovirus, which is the stomach flu, then spring training, and then I got back and I had the flu, the real flu. So, I mean, it's been like 3 weeks of just, but I'm feeling better. And honestly, I can't thank you guys enough for all the great comments. Just fantastic reading. Really, I tried to go through, and I always do, try to go through and read all of them. And I thank you guys, whether it's your first time here or you're here every day, for being part of what we do here at the Cubs Baseball channel. And we're just going to keep getting better, coming up with more stuff. And as we grow, we'll add some people. And, the thing that I keep looking forward to are our Friday watch parties. So be ready for that too. Friday day games at Wrigley, they're the best. Anyway, let's talk about one of the guys that we're looking forward to making an impact on those Friday day games and every game, right? And that's Seiya Suzuki. The Cubs right fielder, I think he's ready to be one of the integral parts of the Cubs this year. I mean, they would not have had the second half of the season last year without him. And remember, at the beginning of the season, he struggled. And then we weren't really sure what was going to happen, right? And then they sat him down, and then he took a couple of days off, and he's watching guys take batting practice and learning their approach and figuring out how many times he needs to swing the bat, in the cages and get ready for the games. And, and Japan is a different culture. It's a different league. It's a different baseball. It's just different stadiums. I think our stadiums are bigger, but at the end of the day, there's an adjustment period, right? And so he's watching guys like Cody Bellinger, and then all of a sudden he comes back and he tears it up. He's one of baseball's best hitters the last 47 games, right? August 9th, he comes back. He hits 356. I mean, look at the slash there. 11 home runs, 15 doubles, 37 RBIs. And he did all of that, helping the Cubs contend. And there was that time where we didn't know what was going to happen. And then all of a sudden, they make that late run, and he was a big part of it. And we got an idea there that this guy could potentially be one of baseball's best players, because for those month or 2 months, I mean, he really was. So going into this season, Craig Counsell, starting to see him every day. He talked about being a little surprised at what a great athlete that Suzuki is. Talked about what a great swing he has, right? In the athletic. Yeah, both of those things. A fun teammate. How many times does he make you laugh when he's, kind of kicking it with the guys in the dugout? But he's also a serious player as well. And I think that it's going to be a little easier on him this year, having, someone from Japan on the team, and Imanaga. I really do. Just to have someone else that's going through the same experience with you, someone that you kind of can relate to, being here from there, right? And the culture of baseball in Japan is different. I think it's great. I love the fact that in Japan, that it's so team oriented, and there's a certain work ethic that goes with it, and a respect for the game that those guys have. And I think it translates into the roster. We talked about that during the offseason when the Cubs were figuring out who they were going to sign. And I was hoping that they would get Imanaga, because I think the more of that you have, the more it's going to translate through your entire organization. And that's a great thing to have, not a bad thing to have. So this year's setting up, he's got the experience. He's had success. He's already seen how everything goes. He knows what it takes. And this new manager, Craig Counsell, has made a career on putting players in the best circumstances to succeed. So we'll see if that continues. But I'm really excited about Suzuki. I mean, I put him as, Cody Bellinger being the most important player on the team. And then I think that just because I think he's the best player on the team. And then I think Suzuki's second. I Dansby Swanson is a great all-around player. I've never been overly impressed with his bat. I think it's good at times, but then it disappears at other times. What makes him a great player to me is his all-around game. His defense never goes anywhere. He's always solid at shortstop. He wants to play every single day. I love that about him, although I wish he would have sat him out a little bit last year so that it would have had a little gas for the stretch run. And he runs the bases. He's a really good, and he's a team leader. He does all those things. But the bat, to me, it goes like this, and I feel like Suzuki and I feel like Bellinger are guys that kind of hit at this level. And the more of those guys you can get, the better off you are. But he's a reliable part of the Cubs, and someone that's going to help them get to the next level. So I'm just thinking that if he can do the things that we saw him do at the second half of the season last year, it's really going to benefit the Cubs. I got to talk about David Bote again. And, I love the reading in the comment section. Somebody swung in there and said, yeah, Ron Coomer was on the score, and he was talking about kind of something that I alluded to a few weeks ago, that that maybe the relationship between David Ross and Bote wasn't great. I mean, just a gut feeling, I'll call it. But to have a guy that's getting paid a major league contract and have him in the minor leagues, you just never see that, right? And there were opportunities to bring him up last year, and they brought up Miles Mastroboni instead. So they didn't want him there. And coming into this season, he's, like we talked about in yesterday's show, he's got another year this year of being paid a major league salary of, 500 and or $5.5 million, right? Is that it? Yeah. So that's a big salary for, a utility guy or whatever. He's come into this spring, and you can't ignore him. I mean, like, we didn't really even consider him in the conversation at the beginning, just because he really wasn't in there, right? But he's hit 5 home runs, played second and third in the game against the White Sox, And at second base, every time you turn around, he's diving and making catches. And, like he was 0 for 3 at the plate, but then he was doing it in the field. I, Spring training's weird where the games don't count. And sometimes the success you have in spring training doesn't even translate into the regular season. But you can't ignore what you're watching. And if you're seeing this guy, if you're Craig Counsell and you're going, I got to have somebody to play third base because I don't know if I can rely on Christopher Morel. And if this guy can come in, give me a little bit of a pop, handle the position without, messing it up. You may only play the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings or the business end, the 8th and 9th or whatever. But at the end of the day, you want to have that guy. The other thing are the numbers are kind of you're looking around and you're going, maybe they're kind of working out in his favor too. I mean, Nick Madrigal hasn't played because he's been injured. Patrick Wisdom, I'm still just nervous about him defensively. You love the home runs, and he's done that this spring. Miles Masterboni, I mean, kind of quiet, so we'll see what happens. But everyone's starting to pay attention to David Bote, and he's been kind of the guy of this spring, and I can go back in my mind and I can think about spring trainings where, even going way back to, there was a guy named Jake Fox. You guys remember him? And he hit all the home runs in spring and wow, this guy can hit, and kind of got everyone's attention. And Chris Bryant had that spring where he wasn't going to make the roster, but he was the best player on the team. And he hit, just did everything. Javi Baez had a spring like that. So that's what's going on right now. And Bote has definitely seized the opportunity. And I'm just so curious to see kind of how this whole thing starts to pan out. What would give him an advantage in my mind is that you're paying him. So if it's close, then why would you want to pay someone else when you're already got to pay this guy? He's been there, and forget about like the personality, because you guys know I like David. I've known him since he was since he came up. I mean, I think he's a fantastic person. But if you take that part of it out, you're paying him $5.5 million. I mean, you might as well just why wouldn't you, right? So we'll see what happens. So the other thing too is maybe he builds up enough, stock where you can trade him, and that would be something too. Maybe another team's going, hey man, we'll take this guy. So we'll find out what happens there. But it's really interesting when you see a player kind of start to force the issue, and I think that's what every team wants. A lot of guys to do that, and Bote's definitely been one of those guys this year. All right, there's a video going around of Sammy Sosa. He's interviewed, and the guy interviews him, and he's like, Sammy's basically talking about the Cubs, and he's back in Chicago, and he's made some mistakes, and the guy asks him about steroids, and and he's kind of like, I don't really want to, I wasn't thinking that you were gonna ask me this, right? A lot of you guys here are angry at Sammy Sosa, and there's people in the organization that didn't like the way that Sammy Sosa treated them. And I've been around for a long time. Now, I wasn't there when he was there, but I was there when people were still upset about the way that he exited. What I want to say is this, is that you forgive people for their mistakes because you want that same forgiveness. It's called grace, right? And it's tough sometimes because, not with this, but anything in life. I'll tell you, the person who really kind of illustrated this to me was Daryl Strawberry. I was hosting an event that he was the speaker in last year, and he got up and he started talking about grace in his life and all the mistakes that he made, and basically just translated it into the his father and his dad, wasn't great to him when he was a kid, and how he had to forgive him, and just not really taking his story, but just telling you, it's true. I mean, like you if you want forgiveness, you got to give it. And it sounds like Sammy's coming in hat in hand. As a Cubs fan, forget about just me as a broadcaster, somebody that just gets on and, here's the 1-1 pitch. But as a person that has been a Cubs fan forever, I loved him. I mean, I think a lot of us did. If you watched him play and you remember those days, it was amazing. And then I was also hurt and disappointed when I found out about steroids, and it wasn't just him, there were a lot of other guys that were involved in that as well. And it would probably be a lot easier on him if he just came out and said, "Hey, you know what? I did it, and I'm sorry." And I think a lot of people would probably be ready to extend that grace a little faster and forgiveness. And maybe that's what's going to happen. I don't know. But the thing that really has kind of put me in a spot where I feel like, I had John Lieber over here who played with him and won 20 games on the team in 2001, and he liked him. And Ron Coomer, you guys saw both of those guys on the channel here recently. Both of them have stood up for him. As I see Mark McGwire, and you remember it was Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire going back and forth in this home run chase, which was really the most epic thing I can ever remember. I mean, they would break into like whatever game was going on, although we were always watching the Cubs. And then hearing those calls and being part of it, it was amazing. But to see Mark McGwire, whose son's a Cubs prospect now, wearing Cubs gear, and he's welcome. I mean, look, we love him. Hey man, you're part of the family now, because we're hoping that your son ends up being a stud. But he's at the complex, and you see him there. Like Sammy should be back too, and I think that's kind of the thing to me where I'm like, it's the time is now. The other part of it is that you're not getting any younger, but it would be just a tremendous. It would be tremendous for all of us if we could all kind of get together and welcome him back. And I know some of you guys are going to be in the comment section. You're going to be on me, but how many of you remember what it was like? So I think a lot of people, maybe weren't Cubs fans back then. Maybe they weren't alive back then because it's been a while now, right? And so for me, I mean, watching all those games, Harry on the call and Stoney and and loving those Cubs teams, and Chip was really good too. I loved him, and I hope that they end up figuring this out, because I think it would be great for Cubs fans to have him back. When he's the home run king of the Cubs. And that doesn't mean I'm saying, hey, the guy belongs in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, because I'm not. But what I'm saying is that life's too short, and it would be really cool to to have Sammy Sosa back in the fold again. So he's going to have to work that out. I think that we've kind of come down to him and Tom Ricketts probably need to get together and talk. I think Tom's a forgiving guy. I think Sammy's going to have to kind of, maybe apologize or admit maybe that he was doing steroids or something. But I don't think that he has to grovel. But I might be wrong. I don't know. But I'd love to see him back. I'm all for him. So you guys tell me what you think. I'm sure you saw the video already, and you know that it's coming. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't end up figuring this thing out sooner than later. But having Big Mac around, can you imagine having Sammy and Big Mac just hanging out on the backfields watching games? like John Lieber was talking about their batting practices. I remember those. I mean, just you're talking about atomic blasts, and then the games and some of the stuff that happened. It was just amazing time to watch baseball. So, all right, guys, thanks for hanging out. Get through this spring training, get to the regular season. A lot of great stuff going on. I'm going to be back in Arizona next week. So I know some of you guys have said you're going to be around. I'm going to be at the complex, I think, on the 19th and the 20th. So anyway, maybe I'll catch you at one of the games, but we'll talk tomorrow. And go Cubs. What a great time of year, because it's almost regular season baseball time. See you guys.